And that truth is that you did everything that you could. There wasn't one more thing that you could have done. Can you live in that moment as best you can with clear eyes and love in your heart?
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and it has been a crazy time in the comic book industry. Conspicuous by their silence has really been DC Comics. We've been waiting to hear something from DC about how they're going to address all the issues that are affecting the comic book industry, with the worldwide crisis. And finally, DC Comics sent out a letter to retailers explaining some of their strategies for addressing the issues short term. They also allude to some more long-term fixes they are going to take regarding distribution and the quagmire that's happened since Diamond Comics distributors announced that they're shutting distribution down. So in this video, I'm going to read the full letter to retailers and then discuss what some of these long-term fix actions could be. So stick around for that. First, let's read the letter to retailers. First, the entire team here at DC hopes that you, your family, and your employees are staying safe and healthy during the very tough and precarious time. We know that you have been waiting for DC to comment on the state of affairs and to address any measures we will take to help our community lighten the burden of the disruption to our business, and we've been working hard on a long-term, solution-focused plan. Here is how we will help. Periodicals and books with in-store dates between March 18, 2020 and June 24, 2020 will be fully returnable. We'll even provide credit for your separate return shipping of these items only. Additionally, because we anticipate that continued disruption to business operations will create regional volatility, DC is exploring a multi-distributor model to provide us with the flexibility needed during the crisis to get new content to our readers on an ongoing basis. In the short term, we continue to engage in active conversations with Diamond to help us solve the distribution issues that have arisen and hope to get new product to stores that want or need it as soon as possible. We will provide additional information about how we'll make that happen in the coming days. Thank you for your patience with us. DC will continue to monitor the situation, continue to speak with you directly, and continue to support you through the days ahead. You are the lifeblood of the industry. So Perch, welcome back to the channel. This is a short notice visit on Thinking Critical. DC Comics finally responds to the crisis going on, but definitely the most firm response from the big two yet. A definitive reaction to the crisis with real steps to address the issues, one of them being returnability, one being a multifaceted approach to distribution in the future, both things that I think are needed in this time. First, let's talk about returnability. It sounds like all comics and graphic novels are returnable through June, but on top of that, they're also going to give stores credit for shipping to return the books.
That's right. It's fully returnable, which means, that shipping credit. And it goes back 10 days from now. It's March 18th, I believe, is the start. So that's going to cover a couple weeks where you had a couple states already moving into a lockdown position where they couldn't sell books. So what this basically does is say, hey, everybody gets something out of this. Everybody, all shops, all states covered. We're just going to blanket make a statement. No matter what kind of uncertainty was going on, we're going to cover you backwards. And going all the way to June basically takes any kind of anxiety over will they extend the program or won't they based on how things develop in the country with the virus. It's a great move. It is what comic industry retailers, it's what people need to feel certain about their business. And DC clearly responded by taking the uncertainty away from it. That was a great move.
Even more emphatic and more a direct approach to addressing this than I thought they would. I thought maybe they would do the discounts and maybe some returnability, but having full returnability and then offering the store credit and then offering it out through June was just a godsend. It's a blessing for the industry. This is exactly what people needed right now to feel better about the industry moving forward. There's a lot of uncertainty right now. A lot of people, spelling doom and gloom for everything.
It was a definitive statement. It was a statement that said to the comic book retailers that we do have your back in all this. So we know that you're going to be experiencing bigger hardships than we as a corporate supported company will experience. Telecommunications is not going to be hurting during this particular moment. So it's good. It's saying we actually have the ability to help a little bit, and they did it. And I owe them certainly a lot of credit. I was frustrated that they took so long to make their announcement that they did. We've talked about that. I do still think, in times of crisis, silence is not a good plan. You need to, some statement needed to come out. But behind the scenes, they were assuring people they were working on things, and they were. And I really respect just, no small movements. We're just going to just clear out all the worry from a couple weeks ago all the way through June. It's 4 months worth of time, full returnability, ship back, everything else. It's basically saying we have you covered from our end. And frankly, where returnability is concerned, it puts a huge finger pointed at Marvel saying, all right, what are you guys going to do now?
Absolutely. That's the elephant in the room. And I do expect Marvel to come back at some point within the next week. It maybe offer returnability as well. Now,
Yeah.
The other big part of this is looking for distribution methods outside of Diamond. I think, we addressed it on the stream on Saturday. Diamond was a single point of failure and it failed. There was a complete shutdown in distribution nationwide. And this really doesn't need to happen if there were regional options. There could be still regions of the country still getting their books. People could still order books from those regions of the country. And some books from the industry would be getting out, but there's almost a complete shutdown now. We talked about some of the options. I think one of the more interesting ones was regional distribution, with some of the hubs being the big comic book stores like your Lone Star, your Mile High, your Midtown Comics, Graham's.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a viable option? Do you think that's something DC will be looking into?
I think it's viable. I don't know if those particular entities will want to get into it. I mean, the people you mentioned, Mile High is probably more predisposed to get into that than, say, Midtown. I think it's going to be where they want to grow, but I think maybe that option now gets put on their feet. The interesting thing about this announcement is, first of all, DC, and this is why I suspect their announcement was delayed, because they have an exclusive agreement through Diamond. There are definitely some out clauses in the event that Diamond cannot fulfill the terms of their agreement. So I'm sure there's a lot of legal checks, and I would be willing to put big money on the fact that it was delayed for a couple of weeks for exactly this reason, for the reason of they had to check to make sure they knew what they could say and what they could do. But DC, in my mind, it's less about the current situation, because the reality is a lot of the printers that are printing these books are shut down right now. It wouldn't have solved necessarily today's problem with what's going on. I think what DC is looking a lot more toward is removing that single point of failure, and also signaling that they're concerned about Diamond's viability. Diamond laid off a lot of people this week, and there's that company is probably in some trouble. So I think this is kind of another signal of DC both saying we are committed to comics, which is all the more ironic and funny when you consider just less than a month ago we were doing videos debunking people saying that AT&T was about to shed them. This was a very forceful statement by DC saying, not only are we in this, not only are we going to have the local comic shops back, but we're going to make sure we remove that single point of failure. And we're going to make sure that we're telling the retailers that we're also concerned about Diamond's viability. And we're going to make sure there's other options for you, which is really what I think this statement does.
And they should be concerned about Diamond's viability moving forward. Lost kind of in the shuffle of Diamond stating, we're halting distribution at the moment, and we plan on picking it up in the future. But they actually halted distribution, period, on some other parts of their business. I believe it was board games, and some other things like that. So this is impacting their operations long term. They have cut out an entire part of their market just because, in response to this so far. And if it prolongs, we don't know how long this is going to take. Diamond might not be viable.
Yeah, I think Diamond was not the healthiest business before this point. They definitely had some scale issues, and they were behind the eight ball in a lot of ways. And this may wind up being a trigger point. I don't think Diamond necessarily goes away, but I do think this, again, this is, you look at it from both a fan perspective and a retailer perspective. This move and this announcement definitively states that the number 2 publisher in the country is in it for the long haul with comics. They are going to make sure that there's a solution found, and they're going to push for viable options to distribute their comics. They care. So, the news today was good news. There was not anything in here that was missing. This was exactly the kind of statement that the retailers needed and the fans needed as well. The only person that's missed in all this, and we would expect this would not be public information, is what's DC telling to the creators? A lot of creators are in a hiatus period themselves, not knowing when things resume, not knowing when they start drawing again or writing again, when do you resume your work? And so what I've heard from the background is that at least some creators have been notified, and DC intends over the next week to talk to all the creators as well and make sure they also have some stability and some forecasting for their lives as well. If that's true, then, DC has done right by all different groups here.
Absolutely. I'm with you. I'm very impressed with what they actually came up with. I do wish they had gotten ahead of this, and gotten some information and some reassurances that this was coming. But now that it's here, it's great information or great news. DC isn't the only, publisher taking steps, to bypass this distribution issue. I believe it's Boom Studios already announced that their graphic novels are going to be available through other distribution channels as far as books go. And I think this is something that you'll see DC and other publishers look at, as far as there are other companies out there that distribute books.
Yep.
They might be graphic novels or hardcovers, but they can certainly distribute comic books if necessary. And so there are other avenues that they need to be researching.
Yeah, and I think you'll see a number of announcements now over the next week of the smaller publishers finding other routes. You're going to see some real proactive behavior off all of these people. Marvel will be the interesting one. I mean, historically, both Disney and Marvel are not first movers. They wait for somebody else to kind of clear the path, get things straightened out, work out the kinks, and then they come in and say, well, we are the biggest publisher, so now we'll take advantage of this too. And I would expect something similar to happen here. But like you mentioned, I do think somebody at DC a week ago, longer, should have come out and just said, hey, we can't tell you what, but we are working on this. We absolutely are, and made a public statement. They did a lot of back channel, but some public statement that they were doing this. But now all eyes are going to be on Marvel. Are you guys going to step up and be leaders? Are you going to just kind of ride on the coattails of what DC and from what I'm hearing, what Image is likely to announce in the next day or two as well? What are you guys going to do? Now's the time for Marvel to show some leadership as well. We'll see if they do.
The interesting thing about Marvel is that they're in a much more envious position as far as resources available. They are a part of Disney. Disney has their own publishing line. Disney releases books into all different markets, whether it be coloring books, just magazines. They have real books. They have resources out the wazoo as far as to help Marvel get through this and find new distribution methods. And I think theirs could be even more comprehensive.
They can. I mean, they definitely have the tools in their arsenal to do it. The only weakness that I think, and this is definitely kind of reaching a little bit, but do keep in mind, in this current crisis, this current situation, DC's parent is AT&T. Telecommunications, they're having a decent time right now. That is not a bad business to be in at this given moment. Marvel's parent company is Disney. Disney is definitely having a much worse financial time throughout all this. So we'll see how it all shakes out when all is said and done. But DC showing leadership, keeping pushing, it's going to be good for them, and hopefully it lands in a good place. And I'm rooting for them to succeed. Marvel, now's the time to kind of make the same kind of statement to retailers and fans and your creators that you too are in this to win.
Interesting enough, I was talking about one of my friends that is in the investment market. We were talking about Disney, how almost everything that they have are considered liabilities right now. Theme parks, cruise lines, vacation spots, movie lines, publishing house or production houses for TV and stuff like that. Everything is on shutdown. So now all of a sudden Netflix was considered more valuable on the stock market. And you're like, well, everyone's at home and watching Netflix. How the tables have turned. You are right.
No, it's an incredible moment, and a lot is going to shift over the next 2 months with these big companies and how they react and what they do. And I think it really does come down to what kind of relationship do you have with your customers, either your businesses that you work with, like comic shops and retailers, or your end customer, your fan, the person who's buying the book. Both are important to you. What kind of relationship do you have? What kind of future are you building with them? That's going to matter at the end of the day. That's going to help see you through this. And again, good news from DC, and good on them for doing the right thing. They waited and they made the right choice.
I'm with you. We are in a moment right now, and I believe DC has seized the moment and taken the initiative and has clear resolve and a vision moving forward. And we'll see who else follows suit. It sounds like Image Comics has, some of the smaller publishers has, but now it's time for Marvel to make their move, and we'll definitely be talking about that when it happens. Thank you so much, Perch, for joining the channel. Is there anything else that you needed to say before we wrap this up?
Not at all. Always pleasure talking to you, and good news for the fans. Let's hope more good news follows.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.